Welcome to Money Matters. I'm David Crowell from Mortgage Network, and in this segment of Money Matters, I'm going to talk about a subject that is perhaps the least nice subject that we can possibly talk about here, and that's the growing signs that a recession is coming our way. So this is not a fun topic, and there will be plenty of people, maybe even my partner in Money Matters, Emily Johnson of Polaris Capital. There will be many who may well disagree with me. But here's the proposition, and this is going to be, this next segment of the show is going to be fairly technical, so I apologize for it being a little dry and a little technical in advance, but here we go. You know about interest rates. You know that there are short-term interest rates and long-term interest rates. You know that short-term interest rates, the interest rates that are charged for borrowing money for a month at a time or a year at a time or 2 years at a time, generally speaking, lower than long-term interest rates, borrowing money for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, or even 10 years. 10 years is considered very long-term. Those interest rates are generally speaking much higher. The difference between the two, short-term interest rates here, long-term interest rates here, is a yield curve. It's the x-axis, y-axis, time and cost yield curve. Interest rates higher over time. So this is the basis of the entire banking system. That's what it means to be a banker, whether you are Mortgage Network lending $2 or $3 billion worth of mortgage money, or whether you are BB&T or Chase Bank or Citibank or Bank of America. It really doesn't matter who you are in the banking business. The entire banking business is founded on the principle of borrowing money short term and lending it longer term and collecting the spread in between. So think about that for a moment. Every banker that you know, that you've done business with your whole life, borrows money extremely short term from you, often paying you nothing for it at all. In other words, they collect money that's maybe only there for a day or two or three or four or five in your checking account and give you nothing in return for it. Or they borrow money from you in the form of CDs and give you 0.5% for it, or 0.75% or 1%. I saw, this is apropos of where we're going with this conversation, I saw in this morning's Island Packet that one of the banks in the area is offering 2.16% for, I think it was 2-year or 3-year CDs. But the principle behind all banking is that the banker is really a lender and a borrower, a lender and a borrower at the same time. The bank borrows money from you, extremely short-term money, extremely low cost, and lends it back out again. The bank, if it's a big bank, can also borrow money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is now lending money at 2%. So they can go to the window of the Fed and borrow large sums of money at 2%, which it can then lend back out again at its, I don't know, its home equity line of credit rate at 5%. So there's a 3% spread for you. The bank as a borrower, the bank as a lender. Okay. The premise here. Remember I spoke about a yield curve. Typically, short-term money costs less, long-term money lends out for more. At the moment, the yield curve has been flattening and is almost flat. The Federal Reserve has been pushing short-term rates up. Why has it done that? Because we're in the 9th year of a recovery and a 9th year of continuous bull market, a continuous economic growth, and the Federal Reserve, who is charged with looking after our labor market and looking after inflation. Those are the two jobs of the Fed, looking after inflation and looking after labor market. And they're becoming concerned. The labor market is full to the brim. There are way more people available than there are jobs for the people who are available. The jobs are all full. So employment is now at, there's now at, I think, 3.8%, maybe even headed for 3.7%. So the Fed's mission is complete on the job side. On the inflation side, it's 9th year of an expansion in the economy, and all signs point toward a tightening, toward the beginning of inflation in the economy. Inflation appears to be at the moment somewhere north of 2%. It's very hard to tell month to month, but somewhere north of 2%. The Fed's objective, stated objective, is to keep it to 2%. So the Fed is using the only tool that it has, which is the lever that controls short-term interest rates, and is pushing short-term interest rates up. Long-term interest rates have remained stubbornly low. Financial markets still find long-term bonds attractive. Money continues to pour into long-term bonds. There's not a lot of places to put the vast sums of capital that are available in the society. Governments continue to buy back bonds that were issued during the recovery period, during the stimulus recovery period. The Trump tax cut is stimulative to the economy, but there's no place left. It's a short-term stimulation, but there's really no place left for the economy to grow at the moment. We're at capacity, we're at highest productivity. So long-term bonds are pricing high, and the yields are, relatively speaking, low. Economists do not see down the road, they don't see a lot of growth in the economy. So they don't see a lot of inflationary pressure, therefore long-term bonds are looking like a good bet. Short-term bonds, short-term interest rates are rising. Therefore, the traditional curve, which has short-term money cheap, long-term money expensive, has flattened to near zero. Interesting. It looks, and here's a prediction, it looks as if the yield curve may invert sometime in the next 30 to 60 days, in which case short-term money pumped up by the Fed, long-term bonds, money flowing in, not only go horizontal, not only go flat, but invert slightly so that short-term money is slightly more expensive than long-term money. Why should that be a worry? Well, it signals the beginning of a recession. The Great Recession of 2000, which was at the time signaling the dot-com crisis in the stock market, came at a time of a slightly inverted yield curve. The Great Recession of 2008, the one that we have mercifully just recovered from over the last 8 years, when did it occur? It occurred at a time of a flattened yield curve. It is one of the most accurate predictors of a recession that exist, because in interest rates, the most boring topic of all, I understand, but in interest rates lie all the other features and factors of the economy. Interest rates are like the antenna of the economy. So I will talk about this in future shows, but it looks like the soft breezes of recession are coming our way in the next 3 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months. This is David Crowell from Mortgage Network, closing this segment of Money Matters.